Hello and welcome to AM Prime here on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining me this morning for an insightful discussion. The University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, in collaboration with the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies, in partnership with the National Joint Action Committee, launched a two-day conference on April 21st, 2023, that was this year, to mark the 50th anniversary of the Black Power Revolution. Now, that was due to take place in 2020, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, was postponed by 2 years. Well, to get a better understanding of exactly what transpired in 1970 and what lessons we can take from 1970 in the year of 2023, I'm joined by the servant leader of NJAC, as well as a former government minister, Mr. Kwasi Mutima. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Keaton.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here to share, whatever information or for whatever perspectives. So I welcome the opportunity.
Well, I'm very much pleased, and thank you for making it to the studio so bright and early.
Yeah.
But as we start this conversation, Professor Rosemary Bell Antwine, she stated at the opening of this conference that Geddes Granger and McCandle Dag and then other members of the then undergraduate group of students, they may not have been aware the impacts that they would have had, the profound impact on a newly independent Trinidad and Tobago and the societal change. When we speak about societal change in 1970, precisely what are we referring to, and does such change actually still exist?
Yeah. Well, I would say that period, 1970, particularly what we refer to as the Trinidad and Tobago Black Power Revolution, it was from the 26th of February, which went right on to April 21st, when you had the declaration of the state of emergency. Yes. Can be seen as one of the most transformative periods in our history. In fact, it's not only impacted Trinidad and Tobago, but even the wider Caribbean. During that period, for example, you had a committee that was led by the then Chief Servant, Brother McCandle Dagger, called the Caribbean Steering Committee, on which you had people like the late Bishop Maurice Bishop of Grenada, who went on to become Prime Minister, Tim Hector of Antigua, Rosie Douglas of Dominica, who also went on to become a Prime Minister. So they comprise of the more progressive leaders within the Caribbean. And so that when one examines 1970 and its full dimension, one has to appreciate you're not just looking at a local impact within Trinidad and Tobago, but also regional in terms of the Caribbean. So it was very much a watershed moment. And I think one of the errors that we make today is that, unfortunately, there's still so much that is not known by so many throughout our society, particularly the younger members of our population. And I think this is tragic for us in terms of our development, because 1970 ought to be a reference point for us as a nation in terms of dealing with contemporary issues within our society. Why I say so? Because it is a period when that revolution, as we term it, was able to offer so much analysis of our problems, particularly a lot of our legacy issues, which we inherited from colonialism, right? And 70 was able to provide deep analysis. Also, it went beyond just analysis and also provided solutions, at least options, solutions to a lot of these problems. However, the government at the time, the PNM government, chose, rather than to see how it could embrace such a movement in terms of the policies that were put forward, the questions were being asked, instead tried to suppress such a movement. As you know, the leaders were imprisoned on several occasions. They were thrown down Nelson Island as well as the Royal Jail. And so what has happened is that I think today what we are seeing within our society in terms of the numerous problems that we are grappling with, I would dare say, and I make no apologies for it, is that it is a direct consequence and result of this approach of the government denying our population the opportunity, right, to be able to recognize some of these issues that were raised.
Have we, and I hear the point that you're making, and two things that I've gathered. First of all, one, is it that we as a people and we as a population have denied ourselves of that opportunity in terms of analysis, one? And two, why do you think that we choose as a nation to selectively unremember our history?
Well, all right, the first question, or the first point. In all fairness, I will not be too hard on the population, and I will not place all of the blame there, because education is a process, and a process that starts from the very young. If you look at our education system, for example, you look at the syllabuses there, there's very little attention paid, not only to 1970, but even other in terms of historical moments, events within our own society. But I said 1970 stands out as one of the major ones of significance. And you examine, our education system, and there's very little that almost absent, right, in terms of any type of attention being paid to that period, that our youth, in particular from that early stage, can learn certain lessons from. So that we have grown within a society where we have been made to feel, many have been made to feel, it is a period more for you to turn your eye away from rather than to pay attention to. And one has to understand as well, you are dealing with a people who have gone through a period, or a society that has gone through a period of colonialism, which we still we are affected by some of the legacies of colonialism. And one of those legacies is that you tend to give lesser appreciation to yourself and who you are, and you look outside, right? And you give more glory, you give more significance, right, to events, to countries, everything outside of you. Right? We're still in that problem.
So the issues that were persistently raised in 1970, such as racial and cultural issues, inequality, do those still exist in 2023?
Yes, a lot of that still exists. I think that is the sad problem, as I said, that the consequence of the suppression of this information. Particularly, let's look at I would consider one of the major issues or major problems. That is the question of national unity. Because one of the pillars of the revolution of 1970 was forging national unity. There was a call for unity between our Indian and African population. The call was Indians and Africans unite. Because since then, we recognized that unless, right, the major races within our population, right, come together in a form of unity, be mobilized, so as to deal with our national issues, we would not be able to solve our problems really. Here we are today in 2023, 53 years later, still grappling with that problem. This problem of racial unity. And again, we look back at colonialism, because this, again, is a legacy that was inherited from colonialism. The method of divide and rule, a strategy that was used by the colonial masters, and which continued to be used by our local leaders. Right? So that it is a problem, I would say, that is very much orchestrated, right, manufactured. I always say, if you leave our people together, those two races, there will be no problem, right? They would, the question of unity, they would unite, there would be harmony with each other. But those in political office, in order to hold on to power, they recognize that they use the same method that our colonial masters used, and that is to divide and rule. So we are still grappling with that problem.
1970 was a new wave of consciousness. As per what you're describing, which led to a greater consciousness following the state of emergency, is there a need for a new consciousness now?
Yes, I would say yes, there is need for that new consciousness. Because sadly, I would say since 1917 to now, there has been some regression, right? For example, when you look at the 1970, the revolution and its impact on the economy then, before 1970, our economy was almost totally foreign-owned and controlled. In fact, you can say that within the system of itself, a lot of people usually make reference to the banks, but it wasn't only the banks, right? People of dark skin color were not given certain positions within these industries, banks and otherwise. Yes. 1970 was able to change that, and it created that opportunity for people based on merit rather than skin color. So you found then that our locals, particularly our black population, was able to move into areas of leadership, of management within industry.
But there's something that strikes me here, and you please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. But it seems as though, as you referenced the then PNM government trying to suppress it, and even as history has been selectively unremembered, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Let us, even though there is this divide and rule, which in my opinion still exists, obviously, and the racial issues are very much prevalent in 2023, why is there this notion of Afro-Trinidadians suppressing Afro-Trinidadians? Where is the brotherhood and the unity?
Yeah, well, as I said, you notice I continue, it may sound repetitive by reference colonialism, yes, right? This is not by chance. We tend sometimes to be very hard on, our people, a question of, as you mentioned, attitude amongst Africans to each other in particular and so on. But one has to recognize that what we're dealing with is a legacy problem. This is something that was engineered scientifically, right? When you go back spanning, people sometimes don't like to hear it, but there's a reality, and until we face up to it, we will not be able to deal with the issue. You go back to the period of slavery, through colonialism coming up. And slavery, in terms of certain policies that were adopted, these policies were adopted to have long-lasting effect. It was not just a question of owning chattel for profit, for economic means, right? There were long-term objectives. And hence, we are still at this point suffering the effects of we're experiencing the effects of those long-term objectives. Right? If I could make a side note, that is why this question of the reparations issue is so important to us as a region, right? Because what the issue of reparations does is to raise some of these fundamental issues and offer some type of perspective how they can be addressed, right? So that, coming back to the point now, that we have to see these problems in this context. Right? That is why I also mentioned the question of our education system, because that is the role that our education system is supposed to play, to assist us as citizens to be able to develop the correct perspectives of these problems, to be able to assist us to analyze these issues as they are, so that we all can formulate the necessary solutions that will be required.
Dr. Akola Lewis Cameron, the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, she went on to say the new consciousness then was we don't want crumbs, we want the whole bread. There is a need for racial mindsets now. Sorry, let me correct myself. There's a need for radical mindsets now that will cause us to hunger for the whole bread. Precisely what does she refer to as radical mindsets? Because people will mistake this term of radical.
Yeah, when it refers to the radical mindset, I think what she is speaking about there is a whole, I would say, change of the status quo. You find that we have grown so accustomed because of our political culture. When we speak of change, it's very superficial in terms of change of persons in government, change of persons within our parliament, and so on, which is a limited definition, a limited perspective of change. What 1970 spoke about was a more holistic, complete type of change where the very status quo needs to be revamped. The way we do things, right? The way we see things, the way we perceive things needed a total revamping. And this is what the speaker there is referring to, right? That all along, you find we have been made to just see things in the eyes of the colonizer. That is the problem, in that our whole history has been shaped, right, and given to us by the colonizer. And a lot of us still see through the lens of the colonizer. What 1970 attempted to do was assist us to make that shift, where we now develop a pride in ourselves, a pride in our own history, a pride in our own culture, a pride in our own being, that we begin now to view our history and our existence through our own lens.
Well, Mr. Mutima, I want to thank you very much. It's unfortunate that we are out of time, but it's been a very insightful discussion indeed, and I am of the opinion, and I think we share this, that there is that need for a new consciousness.
Correct.
And I think even though you say that we don't want to be too hard on our people, I think governments past and present come from the people as well.
Yeah.
And we all need to open up our eyes a bit more.
Correct.
But thank you very much, sir, for your time.
All right, thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
well, that was
pleasure.
Mr. Kwasi Mutima. He is the servant leader of NJAC and a former government minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we take a break here on AM Prime. And when we return, the conversations continue. Stay tuned.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, MacBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzoneTT.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
This May, the spectacular event you've been waiting for is coming. May 27th, celebrate amazing. North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Festival grounds, Blashy Shares. Born here, played here.
Tickets available at Crosby St. James, Kenny Sport, Extra Foods, Mart's Liquor Palace, 14 Diego Martin Main Road, and WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook.
Welcome back to AM Prime, and thank you for staying with us. I'm pleased to welcome my second guest, retired Director General of Civil Aviation, Mr. Ramesh Lachmedial. We're speaking about solving our regional transportation dilemma. He's with us via Zoom this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Well, we start the conversation first by recognizing that regionally, we've seen over the last few years many airlines, unfortunately, see their demise. We saw what happened with Air Jamaica, even after Caribbean Airlines took that over, and even with Liat. Since then, have you seen any sort of strategic moves by Caribbean Airlines to say that they themselves are trying to monopolize the regional market? Currently, they're the only airline, so one could argue that already exists. But in terms of servicing the airspace as it were before, would you say any strategic moves have been implemented?
Well, I think Caribbean Airlines, they have served the region faithfully for over 80 years. And I've always advocated that what we need in the region is a single carrier under an agreed governance structure with strategically placed hubs that will be able to serve the air transport needs of the region. However, that has been plagued by any main insularity on the part of governments. And even recently, when we had the demise of Liat, the Prime Minister of Antigua clearly said, we want CAL to be no part of any new arrangement. And he said, we're going to see the already supermarket of the Caribbean, and he was 1,000,000% against any involvement of CAL in any form of restructured Liat, you know. So that's an example of the insularity that exists, that has been, a major impediment to really having a true single Caribbean airline. But everybody want to have the airline, mm-hmm. and not everybody can afford it.
Mm-hmm. Well, given that, there is, at this point in time, Caribbean Airlines is really the only airline that exists. I mean, I know that they tried to revamp Liat. That has not borne fruit as yet. But what is this resistance to against Caribbean Airlines?
I would say it has a lot to do with the geopolitics. And Caribbean Airlines and the government of Jamaica has been very generous to the region. Even with the Air Jamaica, with its demise, Caribbean Airlines, by agreement between both governments, mm-hmm. took up some routes that were operated by Air Jamaica on behalf of the Jamaican government in North America. And they valued then the Air Jamaica brand to be worth $28 million. And based on that, they got 16% shares in Caribbean Airlines. And of course, that, to me, in my view, that whole thing was a mistake, because instead of making the hundreds of millions of dollars that were promised, CAL lost hundreds of millions of US dollars simply because the Jamaican diaspora did not support CAL,
Mm-hmm. And that obviously is what happened there. The arguments you put forward is the Jamaican diaspora not supporting CAL. But at this point, given the options available, would the diasporas of the Caribbean islands, they don't have much of a choice but to support Caribbean Airlines. So is it that in itself is working out in the airline's favor?
Well, at the end of the day, if you ever need to travel, then you would travel with the airline that's available. And if CAL is the only option, they will have to travel with CAL. You know?
No.
But again, the Caribbean markets are very thin. You don't have adequate load factors to make it a really economically viable proposition. And there are issues with taxes, airport taxes, government taxes, which studies have said they are too high and they should be reduced to make travel more affordable. But at the end of the day, airlines are in business to make money, not to lose money. And therefore, they'll have to charge an economic fare to the passengers unless, of course, the governments are willing to subsidize. And that has been a major problem with LIAT. LIAT, the fares that were approved on certain sectors were not economical. And at the end of the day, because of a lack of subsidy, LIAT, incurred significant debt, which caused the airline in 2020 to go into court-administered receivership.
Now, beyond that, what are some of the lessons that Caribbean Airlines currently can learn from the demise of LIAT? And even Air Jamaica?
Well, the lessons would be to operate routes that are profitable, because at the end of the day, the taxpayers support CAL to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Since 2010, because prior to that, CAL was making a surplus.
But are we seeing that right now, by the way? I mean, I know you referenced CAL was making a surplus, but since then, obviously, success has been limited. But are we seeing, with the acquisition of ATRs, and even the conversation surrounding expanding its 737 fleet, are we seeing CAL looking to expand into more profitable routes, or is it that we're just placing flights to try and even get into a market?
No, they have done their market studies and they are going to operate routes that has the potential to make a profit. And that's why they're adding additional aircraft to their fleet, the ATRs, to service the intra-Caribbean route. They are going to set up strategically placed hubs, perhaps in Barbados and Antigua and in Jamaica. And also they're going to acquire additional 737 aircraft to do, I read in newspapers where they're seeking to fly to Panama to compete with Copa, something they should have done years ago, But so they are, that's, in my view, that's a very good strategic move to be able to seek new routes based on your marketing studies that has the potential to be profitable. And I'm sure that's what they would do. They would not want to go into a route where they're going to lose money. Now, normally when you're developing a route, initially, you would lose some money, but as the route grows, as the route develops and the traffic grows, then you're going to make a profit.
But overall then, Mr. Lutchmedia, based on the conversation thus far, prior to the issues of one airline, two brands with Caribbean Airlines and Air Jamaica, following such issues and the collapse of Air Jamaica, would you now say that Caribbean Airlines is actually heading in the right direction, that you are satisfied with the vision and what is being implemented in terms of these strategic moves?
Yes, I think they're heading in the right direction. They have very good creative, innovative, and entrepreneurial leaders in the marketing department in CAL, and I know, and they know what they're doing, And at the end of the day, airline route has to be incremental, and it's not, you cannot just start 6 new routes, simultaneously. You won't be able to handle it. So you have to look at each route, the one with the greatest revenue potential, and then develop your strategies, how to be able to access those markets.
But even the current routes that Caribbean Airlines is servicing, beyond the ones that they hope to expand, would you say that they are servicing those routes well, even the ones regionally? Have they, have they really taken advantage of the situation?
I would say yes. I would say they have been doing that. There are several issues that arise from time to time, which they are quite capable of dealing with.
So let's speak now about the Caribbean Multilateral Air Services Agreement, MASA. Could you just explain what this agreement is?
Well, the CARICOM Multilateral Air Services Agreement, the current one, allows for a single market for air transport based on Chapter 6 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. So what it means is that an airline of one member state can fly into another member state provided they are properly licensed, and they can actually exercise what we call cabotage rights. So they can fly between two internal points. For example, if there's let's say a carrier to replace Liat, they can fly between Trinidad and Tobago under the new MASA, and likewise any other CARICOM airline can fly between Montego Bay and Kingston, and also within the total point between St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The problem with the MASA is that not a single country has yet implemented amended their domestic law to be able to give full effect to the agreement. I know Trinidad and Tobago, the amendment to the domestic law is in the legislative process, so that once that is completed, then other CARICOM airlines can operate in Trinidad and Tobago and operate between Trinidad and Tobago in accordance with the MASA. But the major problem has, again, they have not. Likewise, I will tell you that, and I would single out Jamaica. When CAL began to operate routes on behalf of the Jamaican government, hundreds of Jamaican citizens, pilots, flight attendants, mechanics, engineers were hired by CAL. And because our civil aviation regulations fully comply with the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, Jamaican pilots were able to get Trinidad and Tobago pilot's license to be able to fly for CAL. Mm-hmm. But up to today, Jamaica has not amended their aviation regulations to give full effect. So if the situation was in reverse, Trinidad and Tobago citizens would not be able to easily get Jamaican pilot's licenses to fly a Jamaican registered aircraft. And that's an example of the insularity. And then they would come down here and try to, insist that we change our law to provide for this one airline to runs, which goes against international law, because you can't rule out to the public that an entity is authorized to conduct commercial air transport operations when they are not in possession of an air operator certificate. And that's what the problem was.
Is it once more geopolitics that has caused this rift?
It is. You really have to look at what's happening to West Indies cricket and you'll understand what I'm talking about.
That's a fair reference. I think I now understand very much what you're speaking about. But if this act, this MASA Act came into August 17th, 2020, and you said it's now in the legislative process, this...
Yes, Trinidad and Tobago they have already drafted the amendments to their regulations to give effect to the revised MASA, and it's currently going through the legislative process. And I think we are probably the only country that is doing that. Mm-hmm. But the other country, Jamaica, you still have to go back to the revised treaty to create that single space,
Mm-hmm. So as we conclude, Mr. Lachmidial, and thank you very much for joining us this morning, Caribbean Airlines, given the current market, given the current regional situation, is the Trinidad and Tobago's government is the only government really that is making an effort to try and fully service regional air transportation. Is that a fair statement to make?
I would say it's a fair statement, and they have to do it on the basis of proper feasibility studies to ensure that the new routes, right, has the potential to be profitable. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it is in the best interest of the taxpayers who have faithfully supported Caribbean Airlines. But I want to make one point before we close. You know,
Sure.
while Jamaica, I think with shared illusion, they now have 11% ownership of CAL. When the TT government, the taxpayers, are supporting CAL, in spite of the fact that there are a couple of hundred people Jamaicans employed by CAL, the Jamaican government has not put a single cent into CAL. So we have a situation here where we, the taxpayers, are paying Jamaican citizens salaries who work for CAL, and they in turn are paying income taxes to the Jamaican government. So indirectly, our taxpayers' money end up in the Jamaican treasury. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do understand what you're saying. But then isn't there any sort of responsibility on the part of Caribbean Airlines and by extension the Trans-Tobago government to try and resolve such an issue?
Well, again, I'm not a diplomat, but I would assume that because of diplomacy, that the TG government may tread very cautiously because they would not want to do anything that could affect the integration process, which in my view is an elusive dream. Like, you know, there are a couple at the last set of government meeting, a couple of the prime ministers from the Eastern Caribbean were talking about this regional airline, and they were saying unless we get together and put aside whatever differences of opinion, our regional carrier will be an elusive dream. In fact, there was a meeting recently in which the heads met in St. Lucia to discuss a regional carrier to replace Liat, and not many people bought into the idea, and that's why, because again of all the geopolitics and the question of where we're going to headquarter the airline and the number of regulatory issues, because currently the Mauritius is a Category 2 country, and if you're the headquarter an airline in Antigua, unless they get back up to Category 1, the airline will not be able to fly, for example, to Puerto Rico or the US Virgin Islands. You have to be a Category 1 country for an airline that is registered in your state to be able to fly into any US territory, including Miami, New York.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of issues that has to be hammered out, you know. And I don't think anybody would want to participate in a entity that has not been properly thought out, that have not addressed all the regulatory issues, the governance issues, you know.
And the regional integration issues too, Mr. Lutchmedia, that seems to be a major part of this conversation. The regional integration and the full integration of CARICOM.
Well, that is, in my view, that they've been talking about this for the last. If you look at the heads of government meeting minutes in Trinidad held about 31 years ago, they were talking about integration there in the slow pace. And last year in July, they mentioned again in the communique at the end of the meeting in Suriname that the integration process is moving very slow, and that's because again, I say it, insularity. Nobody is really serious, you know. We say things that are politically expressed at the time, but when coming to implementing it, we don't want to, you know. It's politically palatable to say it at that time, but in reality, nobody wants to, you know. Everybody wants to. It's really an issue of turf, you know. And when Manning's vision was to set up Caribbean Airlines to replace BA by way of a name change, it was to have all the different territories participate in this one. That's why he called it Caribbean Airlines, you know, from BWI to Caribbean Airlines. And everybody, you know, reneged on that commitment to participate in Caribbean Airlines. And the government had, the TT government and the TT taxpayer had to do it alone.
Well, Mr. Lutchmedia, that's where we'll have to end it, unfortunately. But thank you very much, nonetheless, for your time this morning, for your presence, and for the information shared with us. Wish you all the best, sir, and look forward to future discussions.
Thank you very much, sir.
Keep well. Mr. Ramesh Lutchmedia, he is a retired Director General of the Civil Aviation Authority. A strategic moves being undertaken. Well, Caribbean Airlines certainly seems to be heading in the right direction. The issue beyond that has to do a lot of with diplomacy in terms of the economics and financing, and even regional integration. As Mr. Lutchmedia suggested, we can talk. We can always talk. It's implementation that it's not just an issue for Trans-Tobago, it's a regional issue. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on the program. When we return, we'll get into your regional updates. Stay tuned to AM Prime.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah, hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here.
Tickets available at Crosby St. James, Kenny Sport, Extra Foods, Mart's Liquor Palace, 14 Diego Martin Main Road, and WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook.
Welcome back to the program. Let's get straight into your regional updates this morning. We go to the island of Jamaica, where extradition warrants are being prepared for 3 other unidentified suspects in the deepening $222 million fraud that was allegedly committed committed at the Institute of Sport between 2011 and 2017. A clerk of the court made the disclosure to 5 individuals, including popular promoter Andrew Wright, who are so far charged in relation to the fraud. Let's see this report.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
And a special welcome once again to our viewers on OneSpotMedia.com.
Up first this evening, extradition requests are being prepared for 3 of 4 additional suspects in the multi-million-dollar fraud case at the Institute of Sports.
Now, this was revealed in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court today when the former financial controller at InSports, Andrew Wright, and his co-accused, Rudolph Barnes, O'Neill Hope, Andrea Picton and Janique Mills made their first appearance.
Now we have more in this report from Raquel Porter.
Attorneys representing the accused appeared prepared to make a case for bail for their clients. However, things did not go as planned after the clerk of court informed the judge that the Crown Counsel assigned to the case will not be in court and had requested an adjournment till next Wednesday. And although the case file is complete, the clerk said the investigating officer is requesting additional time to locate 4 suspects. The process has begun for the extradition of 3 of them who live overseas, while the 4th is being sought locally. Attorney representing O'Neill Hope, Seymour Stewart, was livid. He described the attempt to have the matter adjourned as disgraceful. However, Senior Parish Court Judge Paula Blake Powell explained that even if the court were to consider the applications based on the 18-page court list, she would not be able to. Mr. Stewart pressed for the bail application to be heard Monday, but the judge, however, stood her ground. We spoke with him after the hearing.
That's a travesty of justice. In my view, this amounts to the DPP trying to take over the functions of the judiciary. They were not ready. It's obvious. They were not ready to prosecute this matter today. And they sent a message to the court that they will not be ready until Wednesday next, after 13 years. Now, how is that fair to the citizen? How is that fair? The judge, their application for bail can't be heard because, how does someone's bail be dependent upon one lawyer not being available? I mean, that's a part of it I can't understand.
Earlier in the proceedings, it was revealed that the Industrial Disputes Tribunal had handed down a $2.7 million award to O'Neill Hope for wrongful dismissal. Former financial controller at InSports, Andrew Wright, had filed a similar claim. They are accused of being part of a team of current and former InSports employees who wrote, signed, and cashed fraudulent checks for payees who were neither employed nor contracted to the agency. Mr. Wright, Rudolph Barnes, O'Neill Hope, Andrea Picton, and Janique Mills are charged with conspiracy to defraud, acquisition, use and possession of criminal property, engaging in transactions involving criminal property, and larceny as a servant. The alleged fraudulent scheme spanned the period 2010 to 2017, according to the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency. The accused were remanded until April 26. Raquel Porter, TVJ News.
Seems as though that the justice system, the judicial system here in Trinidad and Tobago is not the only one who has so much, it's plagued by red tape, it's plagued by so many issues. It's also taking place in Jamaica. But those charges, $222 million in terms of fraud from the sports company there in Jamaica. Those extradition warrants are being prepared. At this time, no further updates in relation to that because this news was from a bit earlier this week. But as it relates to actually whether or not they were granted that information is not available at this time. I'm sure, given the systems and perhaps what it takes to even go through with that process, those gentlemen have some time. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on AM Prime for WSN's and News on the Hour. When we return, we'll continue this morning's conversations. Stay tuned to the program.
Here's your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Minister Dayal Singh slams opposition MP for untrue statements. Prime Minister denies any offer on refinery ever being made to Guyana. 2 shot dead in Caroni. Regionally, Curaçao tourism continues to record growth in 2023. And internationally, humanitarian fares as thousands of Sudanese flee on foot. Now for the details. Health Minister Terence Dayal Singh notes with utter shock the statements made by opposition MP Saddam Hussein at the UNC's Monday night forum regarding a statement on recusals from cabinet deliberations on 5 parcels of land concerning the Kumuto-Manzanilla Highway. The minister says this is totally untrue. Minister Dayal Singh says that neither himself nor any member of his family own any land or have any interest in any parcel of land concerning the Kumuto-Manzanilla Highway. He added that the matter of recusals in cabinet deliberations is the honorable, ethical, and correct thing to do, designed to protect the public interest and is an integral part of good governance. The public is advised that matters of recusals should not be weaponized to deliberately mislead the public. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has denied that the Petrotrin refinery was ever offered to the government of Guyana. The Prime Minister was speaking in the Parliament on Wednesday, where he stated the offer was never isolated to Guyana.
I have nothing to answer in the context of this mischief by my colleague from Pointe-à-Pierre, except to say that no refinery was offered to the government of Guyana, so there can be no question about the government of Guyana and any non-acceptance. That interpretation, Madam Speaker, is the consistent approach by our colleagues here to put the worst complexion on our circumstances in the hope that it will hurt the interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
The Prime Minister says this issue being raised is mischief on the part of the opposition.
Anybody who followed that conference would have seen what I said, would understand what I have said. I spoke to any person who is interested. And my colleague is deliberately misrepresenting this situation. And with respect to what I have to say about the refinery, the future of the refinery, I said it 1,000 times. And it requires no further repetition.
2 vendors have been shot by unknown gunmen in Caroni. Up to news time, the men had reportedly succumbed to their injuries. The incident occurred near the Caroni Bridge in close proximity to the vendors' stalls. 2 men were said to have alighted from a vehicle and fired at the vendors. More details will be provided on this story in a subsequent newscast. On to regional developments now. Curaçao tourism continues to record growth in 2023. The growth was driven by visitors from North and South America, offsetting a decline in European visitors. Despite not registering growth, Europe was still the top source market, accounting for 43% of arrivals. In international news now, tens of thousands of people fleeing violence in Sudan are spilling into Chad, with aid agencies warning that larger flows of refugees are expected to arrive. Since fierce fighting broke out in Sudan on April 15th, an estimated 20,000 people have entered Chad and at least 100,000 are set to arrive, the United Nations said on Tuesday, raising concerns about the stability of a fragile region. Well, that was your News to the Hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
North Coast Jazz and Heritage Festival. Safe and sound, that's how we'll get you to the biggest North Coast Jazz ever. No hassle and no worries. Park your ride at the Queen's Park Savannah. Hop on board a safe and secure shuttle with your $100 return fee, and that's it. Service begins at 10 a.m. through 1 p.m. and returns from festival grounds from 7 p.m. Park and ride, a $100 return fee, first come, first go shuttle service to festival grounds Blashy shares. No hassle and no worries. North Coast Jazz, May 27th. Born here, played here.
Tickets available at Crosby St. James, Kenny Sport, Extra Foods, Mart's Liquor Palace, 14 Diego Martin Main Road, and WESN, 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers? Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Balancing your career and work with your personal life is a struggle.
I thought it was a good example I was setting for my kids. So they would see hard work, perseverance, long hours pays off. But I never felt like I could have achieved enough. It was never enough.
A lot of people, because of those trauma and original sensitizing events and how we were brought up, we tend to put ourselves last. We tend to put other people first, work first, other people, and we tend to put ourselves last. And that is a recipe for disaster.
What's Up, Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to the program. So thankfully, we have amazing technical directors here at WESN, and we've found a way to conduct the interview this morning. Ms. Suberu is still with us. Good morning.
Morning.
Well, thank you very much for staying with us, and thanks for your patience as we sort out that issue. But let me start the conversation by asking you, you suggested that your personality defines your style. Oftentimes, people are always discovering themselves. They're not entirely sure even what their personality is. How do they go about finding their style? Essentially, how does one, reflective of their personality, define their style?
So your first question was basically some people don't know themselves, right? I think it's very important if you don't know who you stand for and what you're about. Just go through a simple venture of defining your values as a human. I think that's number one. I think we have our personalities set. I believe that we have set personalities already from culture, influences, family. We already have a set personality. But if we're trying to find ourselves, I definitely advise that you go on a quest of what is my purpose, and also if you don't know what the purpose is, then define your values. Just look at a bunch of values and see which ones reflect better with you. And like today, personality, as you can see, I am wearing a velvet kind of baggy shirt, which I don't usually wear.
I can hear you.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And yeah, I'm wearing jeans, which I never wear. I am a short pants, crop top, shirt, or dress type of girl. But today, my mood is, I've been traveling for 2 weeks. I have a lot to do, and I want to be as comfortable as possible. And I got really cold yesterday, so it's really on a mood and personality. Like my personality already defines who I am, which is my daily dressing. I'm very confident. So it doesn't matter where I go, I would wear whatever I want to wear. Once again, I'm not going to go into a fancy meeting with a super mega crop top, So that's kind of where the ambience and the environment where you're going in kind of defines how you're going to dress. I believe that. Now, not everybody believes that. Some people would still go into a meeting looking however they want to look, and that is on there. But my advice is, scope out where you're going as well. How are you feeling? Where are you going? And dress accordingly. Right now, I don't have any major events after this. I only have to go to get some fabric in town, so that's why I'm definitely going to be comfortable. And I just have a lot of production work to do as well.
Well, you've been very busy. The finale of the Barbados Fashion Show, it was held on April 22nd. Your brand, SS Label, what is the inspiration behind your creativity? How would you describe your brand?
The inspiration behind it is my main one was to customize the women's body because of my body type, which is I'm pretty large busted and everywhere else I'm pretty small and petite, and my height is very short. So that's number one inspiration, is to customize your body. Number two is to be able to re-wear a lot. So my collection was the most basic collection out of all the designers because that's just how I design. I am pretty, to me it's basic, to other people it's whatever they see as it, To me it's basic in a sense that it is everyday wearable. Like you can transform, you can throw a jacket over this and I could be executive, So that's my inspiration is for it to be wearable for the Caribbean woman, and not just the Caribbean woman, but anywhere that you go. I wear my clothes when I'm in Europe. I wear my clothes when I'm in United States. Everywhere that I go, I'm always representing and wearing my brand because it's a lifestyle brand. So the inspiration is definitely women's bodies and customization, rewearable and classy, but also the woman doesn't stop being a woman after they're a mother or after they're a wife. You know, it's still women, and I want women to still feel like that in my pieces.
So you're also trying to inspire others through your creativity and through your designs. But I heard something there. You're designing for the everyday Caribbean woman, you know, something that they can wear almost every day. You've described it as basic, which could even be a harsh criticism, if I may say so, given some of your designs. But given the diversity here in the Caribbean, the beautiful diversity that we're blessed with and we're fortunate with, how do we even try and design for the Caribbean woman, given that the Caribbean woman encompasses many, not just one?
Absolutely, absolutely. So even in cultures, you know, I do get all types of cultures. Religions, I meant to say. I've incorporated, because of the diversity of the Caribbean woman, I have incorporated, so you can see this top, and then you can make it long sleeve. There's an additional cost for like add-on the sleeves, or even to make the top longer, or to make it a bodysuit. The length of my skirts, I have different lengths, just to be able to accommodate different types of women in different environments and different religious backgrounds. That's kind of how we're able to incorporate. My clothes could be as sexy as you want it to be, moderate, or as conservative as you would choose for it to be. Even my wrap skirt, like some clients, they don't want to show a leg, you know, and so we wrap it more than the ordinary so that there is no leg showing. It's just a beautiful ruffled skirt. And I mean basic because, you know, a lot of these runway shows and these fashion shows is very, sometimes very couture. And that's not my style, couture. My style is, can I wear it? Can you wear it? And who is wearing it? And when are they wearing it? I want to know, when I design something, it's like I know where it is. Mm-hmm. And that's why my brand is a lifestyle. And that's why I sell a little bit, because I wear my clothing everywhere that I go. So that's why I would say it's a lifestyle brand as well.
Your brand is a lifestyle, but you also said that ethical fashion is key to the SS label. What is ethical fashion?
Ethical fashion, so there's ethical and sustainability, right? So they go hand in hand, but they're not exactly the same thing. So we live in a world where manufacturing in any type of form is the new way of slavery, I could go as far as saying. So we need to be very careful. I mean, unfortunately, my role right now in this life is to advocate for clothing. But unfortunately, our laptops, our phones, all these things that I'm manufacturing have the potential for it to be harsh labor and unethical practices, right? But in clothing, it's major. In clothing, it's really big. It's really rampant. Like, we've seen factories in India just fall and crumble into pieces, and that it doesn't stop there. So when you're in the fashion industry, you have deadlines, right? And when you have deadlines, what they're doing in these countries, you just close the doors. Mm-hmm. You close the doors, and you can't leave until it's done. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter however you feel. Like, this is just a little bit of what really happens in these industries. Like, they get underpaid, they have zero benefits. They're just treated like, they're not treated like human beings as well, you know. So I have a team of 5 seamstresses and 2 quality control individuals. And I can't imagine, like, I'm sometimes stressed because I have deadlines, and it has to be, the thing with clothing is that it's deadlines, right? And it has to be the certain time, because right now I deal direct to clients, but we are expanding to deal with companies, you know, and I can't imagine having a pressure from a company, and then I'm telling my staff, no, y'all have to stay because I have to make money. and it's not just me making money, it's for everybody's good, but deadlines, like your staff shouldn't suffer and shouldn't feel sick and ill and dropping down dead because of clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Now, speak to us about being a young entrepreneur in this industry, in the fashion industry. Surely, as you've described it, around the world, it's not easy. There are people who actually suffer to even produce the clothes that we wear. But being a young entrepreneur in this industry in the Caribbean, given the current climate that we're in, how would you describe your journey to where you are now?
How would I describe my journey? It's been, I think, unfortunately, it's a pretty lonely journey, the fashion journey, especially in the Caribbean. And I think, I'm not sure if it was mentioned in the article, but I'm making everybody to unite because nobody is anybody's competition. You know, like, I am Siobhan's competition. You know, I need to go against me and better me and just go up. You know, I think there should be more unity. What I am thankful about is institutions like Fashion TT, and they are giving us a lot of tools, a lot of resources for free, and I think it's incredible. But aside from that, you just have to have a very strong mindset and stay very focused.
Mm-hmm. Now, oftentimes when you speak about fashion, there's so many who are just bedazzled by brands, international brands. You hear people always touting about certain things like Gucci and Prada, and we've all heard those conversations. Is there a reluctance to actually Caribbean brands, like locally based brands? Or are we now seeing a shifting of the tides where we are seeing more support with people actually purchasing these brands, supporting these brands, and even looking forward to next year's new trends?
Oh, absolutely. I think people love the Gucci, they love the Prada, but I think this new wave of upcoming designers, I think people understand that that's what it's going to be. That's what we are going to be. We're going to be the new age Gucci's and Pradas, like SS Label goal is to be the number one resortwear brand in the world. Even though we're a lifestyle brand, our main focus is resort, and where we will most like to thrive is in resort wear. Just like how Gucci has so many different things. They have perfumes, belts, bags, and they thrive with certain things like their shoes, their loafers is what really made them huge, And then they have all the other things to make it a lifestyle brand. I definitely think there are a lot of brands, especially after coming from this fashion show, I was able to connect with so many incredible designers. And not just connect, but be inspired by that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely tons of incredible designers that are just going to take over the world from the Caribbean. I strongly believe it.
Let's speak about just taking a sidestep for a moment. You mentioned something there, shoes. What about the Caribbean designer as it relates to shoes? I mean, if I were to go to any store in particular now, I'm actually engulfed by all these international brands. I mean, what about the Caribbean design and shoes? Are we seeing opportunity there as well?
I haven't personally met any Caribbean shoe designer, but in my travels, like to Colombia, where they have great craftsmanship on shoes, I have met. And I think even in Latin America, which is, neighboring to us, we can grab inspiration from that and we could, make it happen. They have but in Trinidad, I would say it's mostly like handbags and jewelry. Shoes, per se, in the Caribbean, I have not heard of not to my knowledge. Because, yes, but in Latin America, yes, I see brands that amazing job, and they grab a niche market as well, which I think is incredible.
Well, just before we conclude, what would be your advice, given your experiences and the growth of the SS label? What would be your advice to fellow entrepreneurs, especially young designers who have a dream but not necessarily are hopeful of being able to break into the industry?
My advice, I started with not much money, because people always I think first of all, people make everything an issue, right? We always limit ourselves. So I think it's your mindset is the first thing you need to tackle and work on. As you work on your brand, you do both at the same time. Definitely more faith, less fear. Don't let fear hold you back. Faith is fear is a compass, but you really have to go all in. I also recommend just sticking to people that are listening. Let the naysayers and all the negative people, you have to leave them behind.
Or you could take inspiration from them.
Huh?
Surely you can take inspiration from your negatives as well. You can use that as a confidence booster.
Depends on your personality.
Yeah.
They fuel me. I'm fueled.
No,
when people think I can't do something, when people think bad of me or ill or negative, I'm just I'll just put myself aside and work hard.
No, that's excellent. I understand it. Now, could just please share with the viewers where they can actually view your designs, where they can view your clothing line.
Okay, so our Instagram is the fastest way to get onto us on WhatsApp. So our WhatsApp is 707-7775. Our Instagram is at Siobhan Subero Label, which is SHIVONNE, Subero and Label. And our website as well is www.siobhansuberolabel.com.
Ms. Siobhan Subero, congratulations on all your success thus far, and I wish you all the best as you continue to develop your brand and continue to break into new markets and bring new trends and new styles. Thank you for everything, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Have a great day. All the best. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
As I said before, and I'll keep saying it again, we have so many young, talented individuals here in Trinidad and Tobago. And I think we also got a phone line in my ear, but that's okay. We have so many young, talented entrepreneurs here in Trinidad and Tobago. And many of them have had the opportunity to break into the regional market and into the international market. But as per the advice of Ms. Subero, work hard at it. Don't make everything an issue. As she said, we tend to do that. And I myself am guilty of that many a times. But she's absolutely right. And even with respect to all the negatives around you and all those who may damper your hopes, at the end of the day, it's your life. And you have to make something of it. Nobody else is going to live it for you. So your dreams can be conquered. At the end of the day, it really is your mindset. But I keep seeing it every day. There is hope. Trinidad and Tobago, a vast array of talent. And I just hope that they get that opportunity, they get that platform, they get the stepping stone, and they work hard at it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for starting your day with me. Thank you for joining me this morning for AM Prime. I know that following 3 days of rain, there was 3 days of flooding in some parts. And it's surprising. After months of scorching heat, persistent rainfall just leads to the complete opposite. You know, when there was no water, there's ponds over Trinidad and Tobago. But anyway, As I said, it's a beautiful day ahead of us. Make it yours. Make it a productive one. Always be rational and mature in whatever you do. Always be the bigger person. And guess what? If things go good, bright and early again tomorrow morning, you can join me to start your day. I'm Keaton Shaw. Bye-bye.